The letter arrived on a Tuesday, which was weird because mail doesn't come on Tuesdays. At least, it hadn't in the 3 years I'd lived in my apartment. The envelope looked ordinary enough. Plain white. No return address. My name and address printed in a generic font that screamed. I could be junk mail or a bill. Open me and find out. I almost tossed it in the recycling bin with the takeout menus and credit card offers. Thank God for my crippling curiosity. Inside was a single sheet of paper with 5 typed lines. Devin, asterisk. Do not go to work tomorrow. Stay home. Call in sick. Whatever you do, don't be at Horizon Tech at 10:17 a.m. Trust me on this. Asterisk. You asterisk. That was it. No explanation, no elaborate conspiracy theory, no ransom demand. Just a cryptic warning allegedly from myself? Well, that's a new one, I muttered, flipping the paper over. Nothing on the back. Usually the scammers at least try to convince me I've won a Caribbean cruise. My name is Devin Riley, and I'm what you'd call spectacularly average. Middle management at Horizon Technologies, a mid-sized tech company where I supervise a team developing user interfaces that most people will complain about. My most exciting weekly decision is whether to have Thai or Indian for takeout on Fridays. So why would anyone send me a mysterious warning? And sign it from me? I called my best friend Zoe. She's the rational one in our friendship, the human equivalent of a cold shower when my imagination runs wild. Maybe it's a prank? She suggested after I read her the note. Oliver from marketing has that weird sense of humor. Oliver wouldn't put this much effort into a prank. He still thinks replying all to company emails is the height of comedy. Point taken. I could hear her typing in the background. Zoe's a cybersecurity analyst who can find anyone online in 10 minutes flat. The postmark is local, mailed yesterday. Great. So my future self apparently lives in the neighborhood. I paced my kitchen, examining the letter again. The paper was standard printer stock, nothing special. You're not seriously considering staying home, are you? Zoe asked. We have that big presentation tomorrow. That was the thing. We did have a big presentation to potential investors who could double the company's value overnight. My team had been preparing for weeks. If I didn't show up, my boss Diane would have my head on a spike by noon. No, of course not, I said, but something nagged at me. The specificity of the time. 10:17 a.m. Not 10:15 or 10:30. Exactly 10:17. That night I barely slept. I kept rereading the letter, looking for hidden meanings or clues I might have missed. By morning, dark circles under my eyes completed my zombie aesthetic as I got dressed for work. Letter tucked into my jacket pocket. The rational part of my brain said this was nonsense. The paranoid part kept whispering, but what if? I compromised by going to work but planning to step out of the building at 10 just to be safe. A coffee break. Perfectly reasonable. My morning went normally. Emails, coffee, listening to Ted from accounting complain about his fantasy football league. At 10:05, I casually stretched and mentioned getting coffee from the shop across the street. Grab me a latte? Asked my colleague Priya, not looking up from her monitor. Sure thing, I said, feeling ridiculous but relieved to have an excuse. At 10:09, I was crossing the street, mentally berating myself for giving in to an obvious hoax. At 10:17 exactly, the ground shook beneath my feet as a thunderous boom echoed through the downtown area. I turned to see windows shattering on the 14th floor of Horizon Tech's building. Exactly where our conference room was located, where I should have been presenting to investors at that very moment. People screamed, car alarms wailed, and I stood frozen on the sidewalk, coffee forgotten, as smoke began to billow from the jagged hole in the building's facade. My phone exploded with notifications. First news alerts, explosion at Horizon Technologies headquarters. Then texts, Devin, are you okay? Zoe, where are you? Diane, OMG, please tell me you're alive. Priya, with trembling fingers, I called Zoe. I'm okay, I said when she answered. I wasn't in the building. Thank God, she breathed. It's chaos here. They're saying it was a bomb in the conference room. Devin, If you'd been giving that presentation. I couldn't speak. The letter in my pocket suddenly felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Devin? You there? The letter, I finally managed. It saved my life. Holy shit, she whispered. We need to talk. Not on the phone. Meet me at Cipher 1 hour. Cipher was our code word for a small cafe we went to when we needed absolute privacy. Zoe was serious about this. As I made my way there in a daze, emergency vehicles screamed past me toward my workplace. News was already breaking on my phone. 3 dead, 12 injured in what authorities were calling a targeted attack. 3 dead, people I knew, people I worked with every day, and I had been warned. At Cipher, Zoe was already waiting in our usual corner booth, as far from other patrons as possible. She'd ordered me my usual, black coffee, which I desperately needed. Show me the letter again, she demanded without preamble. I placed it on the table between us. She studied it, then pulled out her laptop. The paper's normal, she said, but look at the printer signature. She pointed to nearly invisible yellow dots on the page, barely perceptible unless you knew to look for them. Most modern printers leave these as trackers. This pattern doesn't match any current printer model. What does that mean? She lowered her voice. It means this was printed on technology that doesn't exist yet. Devin. My coffee turned cold in my hand. That's impossible. 2 hours ago, you would have said a bombing at your office was impossible too. Her eyes met mine. Someone from the future sent you this warning. Before I could process that bombshell, my phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. Check your mailbox when you get home. There's more you need to know. Time is running out. I sprinted home, ignoring curious glances from neighbors as I frantically worked the key in my mailbox. Inside was another plain white envelope, identical to the first. This letter was longer. Devin, asterisk. By now you know I'm telling the truth. The bombing is just the beginning. In 3 days, they'll come for you because they'll discover you weren't there. You need to find Elias Vega before they do. He's living under the name Christopher Reed at the Westlake Apartments, number 307. He knows why this is happening. Asterisk. Do not contact the police. They're compromised. Asterisk. You asterisk. P.S. The third number in our childhood phone number was 5, not 8. Only you would know that. Asterisk. That postscript sent chills down my spine. It was true. I'd misremembered my childhood phone number for years until my mother corrected me last Christmas. It wasn't something anyone could Google. This is insane, I muttered. But I was already looking up the Westlake Apartments on my phone. When Zoe arrived at my apartment an hour later, I showed her the second letter. You're not seriously planning to find this Elias person? She asked, alarmed. What choice do I have? 3 people died today, Zoe. I was supposed to be the 4th. She couldn't argue with that. Then I'm coming with you. The Westlake was across town, a nondescript brick building that had seen better decades. We found apartment 307 and knocked, hearts pounding. The man who answered looked nothing like I expected a time travel conspiracist to look. Mid-40s, cardigan, reading glasses perched on his nose. He looked like he should be grading papers, not hiding from shadowy organizations. He took one look at us and his face drained of color. It started, hasn't it? Inside his apartment was what I could only describe as a conspiracy theorist's dream. Walls covered in timelines, newspaper clippings, photographs connected by red string. But unlike most conspiracy walls I'd seen in movies, this one was meticulous, scientific, with equations and diagrams that looked like they belonged in a physics textbook. I was wondering when you'd show up, Elias said, clearing books from a sofa so we could sit. Though I didn't expect you to bring company. This is Zoe, my friend, I said. I trust her with my life. He nodded gravely. You may have to. Over the next hour, Elias explained that he had been a physicist at Quantum Mechanics Research, a competitor to Horizon Tech. He'd been working on theoretical time mechanics when he discovered something was possible that shouldn't be, microbursts of temporal displacement, sending small objects back in time. The technology was meant for data transmission, he explained. Imagine sending tomorrow's stock prices to yourself today. So you're saying you invented time travel? Zoe asked skeptically. Not exactly. It's limited paper and similar organic materials work best. Can't send anything electronic or alive. And it can only go backward, never forward. But who sent me the letters? I asked. And why was my office bombed? Elias sighed heavily. Your company, Horizon, has been developing something similar. But their application isn't just financial, it's military. Quantum-targeted weapons that could strike before decisions are even made. Preemptive warfare on a scale never seen before. That's impossible, I said. I work there. We make user interfaces, not weapons. That's the cover story. The real work happens on the 18th floor. I felt sick. But why kill people on the 14th floor? Because someone on your team stumbled onto something they shouldn't have. In the original timeline, you died in that explosion, Devin. But someone changed that. But who? I pressed. Elias looked uncomfortable. In the original timeline, you didn't die immediately. You survived long enough to understand what was happening. Long enough to send yourself a warning once you had access to the technology. My head spun. You're saying I'm the one who sent the letters? But I didn't. Not yet, he corrected. It's a temporal loop. You were saved by your future self, who only exists because you were saved. He rubbed his temples. Causality gets complicated. Zoe, ever practical, cut in. So what do we do now? Devin's been identified as missing from the bombing. They'll be looking for him. We need to get to my lab, Elias said. I've been working on a way to expose the whole operation without changing the timeline too dramatically. But we need access to their servers. Which are at Horizon, I realized. Where I can't exactly waltz in right now. Not the main servers, Elias corrected. They keep backups at their secondary facility outside the city. Low security, minimal staff. That's how 12 hours after receiving a letter telling me not to go to work, I found myself breaking into my own company's backup facility with a disgraced physicist and a cybersecurity expert who was having way too much fun with the lock-picking kit she apparently carried at all times. You have interesting hobbies, I whispered as she worked on the service entrance. You have no idea, she grinned as the lock clicked open. Inside, Elias guided us to the server room while I used my employee badge to bypass internal security doors. So far, so good. Until the alarms went off. They've detected the breach, Elias said, suddenly frantic. We have minutes at most. Zoe was already connecting to the main server, fingers flying across her laptop keyboard. Almost there, got it. Downloading everything now. That's when we heard the footsteps. Security moving fast. We need to go, I hissed, but Elias shook his head. Not until the download is complete. This is our only chance. The door burst open. Security officers with very real guns pointed at us. Behind them stood my boss, Diane, looking not at all surprised to see me. Devin, she said coolly. You've been busy. It's over, Diane, I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. We know what Horizon is really developing. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. And what exactly do you think that is? Temporal displacement weapons, Elias spoke up. Military applications of quantum technology. Diane's smile vanished. Dr. Vega, I should have known you'd crawl out of whatever hole you've been hiding in. She turned to me. Devin, this man is delusional. He was fired from QMAR for instability and dangerous experiments. Then explain the bombing, I demanded. Explain how I knew not to be there. Something flickered in her eyes, uncertainty, maybe even fear. I don't know what you're talking about. Check his pocket, Elias suddenly said. Left side. Before I could react, one of the security guards patted me down and pulled out the original letter. Diane's face went white as she read it. Where did you get this? She whispered. From me, I said, understanding dawning. From a future where I found out what you're doing and used your own technology against you. That future doesn't exist anymore, but the warning still came through. A beep from Zoe's laptop broke the moment. Download complete, she announced triumphantly. Chaos erupted. Elias lunged for the laptop while I tackled the nearest guard. Zoe ran for the exit, thumb drive clutched in her hand. Gunshots echoed through the server room. I felt a sharp pain in my side but kept moving, following Zoe toward the exit. Behind me, Elias shouted, get it to the press. It's the only way to break the loop. We made it to the car, tires squealing as Zoe pulled away. Blood was seeping through my shirt. Hospital, she asked, glancing worriedly at my wound. No, I grimaced. They'll look there first. We need to get the data out. Zoe nodded, already making calls to her journalist contacts. As we drove through the night, I thought about time loops and causality and how a letter from a future that no longer existed had saved my life. 3 days later, every major news outlet ran the story. Tech giant's secret time weapon program exposed. The files revealed everything: the weapon program, the targeted bombing to eliminate researchers who had raised ethical concerns, the planned military applications. Diane and the Horizon executives were arrested. The technology was seized by international authorities. As I recovered at a safe house Zoe had arranged, another letter arrived. The final one. Devon asterisk. You've done it. The loop is breaking. This timeline is already different from the one I lived through. The pain and death I witnessed won't happen now, asterisk. This will be the last letter. With the exposure of the technology, the future where I send these warnings won't exist. Paradoxical, I know, asterisk. Take care of yourself. And don't forget to thank Zoe properly. In my timeline, she died trying to help us. Some changes are very much for the better, asterisk. A version of you that no longer needs to exist, asterisk. I folded the letter carefully and put it with the others. Evidence of a future that would never happen, saved by warnings from a timeline that no longer existed. Time paradoxes give me headaches, but they also apparently can save lives. And as for who left that first letter in my mailbox on a Tuesday when mail doesn't come, some questions are better left unanswered. But I make sure to always check my mailbox on Tuesdays just in case.